I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on such a beautiful day? Quentin, good morning. Hope you're doing great, Quentin. T Dog Yo Yo, good morning, gang. Gonna be an amazing week. And yeah, I think it is gonna be an amazing week. The first full week. That's not true. We had no, yeah, I guess it is the first full week of 2024 because the depends on when you start your week. Some people's calendars started on a Sunday, so if your calendar starts on a Sunday, then last week was not a full 2024 week. We are the 8th today. So if you count Sunday as the first day of the week, we're in our first full week of 2024. Ben, good morning, team. Missed all my favorite breakup artists. Well, your wait has been well worth it. We're back on the normal schedule. No more moving around. You'll see the show every morning as usual. John, happy belated Orthodox Christmas. We love the Orthodox Christmas. We love celebrating double. I'm used to celebrating the Orthodox Easter more. I had Greek neighbors growing up, so I got the feast all the time. I got the lamb on a spit, and it was just the best. So I'm a big fan of Greek food. Robert, good morning. We got a sun. We got a market. I haven't checked the markets. I've only checked the running of the network, but so far so good. I'll mention that in a second. Muslim Bitcoiner, assalamu alaikum, Muslim Bitcoiner. Hope you're doing great. John, good morning. Akbalaj, good morning. Muslim Bitcoiner back. Good morning and good sun, good coffee. We love it all. Joe, good morning. Christine, glad you made it, Christine. Good morning indeed. Let's go, Joseph. Enmity, good morning. Hoddle, T, Washington, good morning. Oh, Robert says we're pumping. It is pumping. We love pumping. We love the pump, right? We love the pump. We love the sun rising, right? Who doesn't love a good sunrise, right? Sunrise tech, fully operational. Bitcoin pumping and running. So we're good, right? What else is there to do to talk about all the funny stuff in the news, right? There's nothing else. And drink some coffee, of course. And of course, drink some coffee. My raw milk soured a little bit over the past few days. So this is a black coffee. I've got to go to the market today and buy some more raw milk. It did not taste great. After a few days, sometimes it was fresh when I got it, but I hadn't really adjusted my temperatures on the fridge accurately. So I lived like 2 or 3 days with a probably suboptimal coolness of my fridge. So we got about 80% of the way through the milk. So no big deal. Not that who cares about my milk situation, but it is raw milk. We love raw milk. Enmity asks, where am I now, Nolan? I am in the Southern Studio in Barbados, where I have been coming since I became a New York City refugee. During the wonderful summer of 2020 that everyone remembers so well, right? That was great. So we left New York and we came, we tried to go to Quebec, but things got psycho in Canada. So we split and we've been here, for off and on since then. But it's where we spend our winters. So that's where I am. All right, now let's get into some Moscow time, which is not here, right? Moscow, totally different place. So everyone was talking about the January 6th this weekend, right? Because of course it was January 6th on Saturday. And this fella named Jonathan Capehart, he's an MSNBC host. I'm gonna try and do my version of Jonathan, right? This is Jonathan talking. So he brought in a police officer who's now running for Congress for the Democrats, right? He's a totally credible person. So this politician now, he used to be a police officer, but he's a politician now, was on the MSNPC studio floor. And I'm going to try and do my rendition of Jonathan Capehart, the host, okay? Just going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today. Thank you. Thank you. So that's my, and scene. That's my first entry into Moscow time today. I'm gonna try to get through this. I'm gonna try to get through the show today, guys. I don't know if I can. It's so close since January 6th. I don't know if I can finish the show. It's hard. Thank you for everyone. Thank you. Now, if you're not afraid of insurrections, right, and you're kind of over the insurrection thing, I got other fears for you, right? Moscow Time pumped full of fears today. So we got this one. This is from The Hill. All right, everyone, ready? Why fears over a triple-demic are surging. We got a surge of triple-demic. What's a triple-demic? It is a flu, COVID-19, and RSV together. Then you get a triple-demic. I don't normally add a punchline. But Mike Barber, in the replies to this Hill article, said, "I'm wearing a mask over my eyes to avoid the clickbait-demic." I'm wearing a mask over my eyes. So the triple-demic, guys, be careful, all right? Be very careful. And if you didn't know, if you want to avoid part of the triple-demic, Mail Online has some advice for us, all right? So if you're afraid of the triple-demic, all right, you're not, I don't know what its relation is to being afraid of January 6th, getting sick, but it might have something to do with it. But this is from the Mail Online, in case you're worried about COVID, right? The one part of the triple-demic. Here's some advice. All right, this is from the news, guys. It's from the mainstream news, right? The newest reason to follow a low-fat diet ward off COVID. Right? But be careful, because Time has a little more advice as well, right? So Time Magazine has some advice today, and so if you're avoiding if you get the low-fat diet to avoid COVID, that might also help you, because according to them, if you're trying to lose weight here in 2024, right? A lot of people make a New Year's resolution, I'm going to lose weight. All right. Well, Time Magazine has some news for you, which is the following: why you shouldn't exercise to lose weight. All right, everyone. So if you're trying to lose weight, don't exercise. Time Magazine told you guys. What are you, conspiracy theorists? Time Magazine, they're totally legit, right? Don't exercise. It's the best. I'm told from the article it's the best thing you can do for your health is to not exercise, right? Now, everyone worried about health and this stuff, but good thing we got some news from California. Okay, this is great news. Not everyone's going to have to worry about their health anymore. They're making real progressive strides in California. And this is what we got, right? So California state health insurance to cover sex changes for illegal immigrants. That sounds cool. So if you want to have a sex change, what you got to do, right? I mean, this is legitimate advice. You got to go pay a coyote in Mexico, and they'll bring you to America, and then you just sign up, and then they'll cut your balls off, or they'll cut your tits off if that's what you need. But they'll help you, okay? So you can go right there to California, just cross over. It doesn't matter if you're illegal. They'll pay your bills, okay? So it's good news. We got health outcomes increasing now. It's excellent. It's excellent. But some people are out there still kind of worried about, all this movement. Some of those people, to get the free trans surgery, they might fly to Mexico to walk over the border, right? So they might want to come from China, or I don't know where. Who knows where they're coming? Anywhere in the world, right? Everyone can come according to the Statue of Liberty. So you come, right? And then you cross the border. But there's a problem, okay, with all of that, because Greta is not going to be happy about the energy being used and the global warming. And this is what we found out from The Independent about all this climate change and Greta's feelings and everything. This is the headline today, right? Climate crisis. And I'm okay. So this is related a little bit to the sex changes across the border, but not exactly. All right. So here we go. Climate crisis could kill off great tits, scientists warn. Did you get that? That the climate crisis could kill great tits. All right. Now, of course, everyone knows great tits are just birds, right? We all know that, right? Everybody knows that. Earlier springs could cause common birds. This is from two separate newspapers. That was from The Independent. Oh, this is also from The Independent, but it's the full article. Earlier springs could cause common bird species to become extinct by the end of the century. Guys, we're going to lose our birds. We're going to lose our birds. That's what's going to happen. Now, with all this weather changing, right? This happened on the same weekend. The New York Times published this opinion: the end of snow. It's over, apparently. In other news, this weekend in New York City, the same weekend they wrote that article, they said upstate New York to see up to 12 inches of snow. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Huh? What are you going to do? There was also a award show last night. We're going to talk a bit more about the award show, but the Golden Globes, it's like what people say is the precursor to the Oscars. And this is the headline there. No word if Dylan Mulvaney went to California across the border illegally. We don't know. But Dylan Mulvaney was there at the Golden Globes, and the Daily Mail Online writes the following. Dylan Mulvaney turns heads on Golden Globe's red carpet as she approaches the one-year anniversary of disastrous Bud Light campaign that cost the iconic brand billions. She turned heads. It's good news. Good news. And now finally, our last entry today for Moscow time. We save the best for last, as we often do, All right. So this is from both the Wall Street Journal and I've got another one from Axios. They're kind of related. And I guess Bloomberg had to jump in. You know how Bloomberg goes with the fake news, right? They got to get there quick, right? So here we go. Elon Musk has used illegal drugs, worrying leaders at Tesla and SpaceX. Some executives and board members fear the billionaire's use of drugs, including LSD, cocaine, ecstasy, and mushrooms, and ketamine, could harm his companies. All right, so he's a big drug addict, apparently. Bloomberg Energy reiterates. They say Elon Musk's drug use has worried executives and board members at businesses he runs, right? Elon comes out and says, after that one puff with Rogan, I agreed at NASA's request to do 3 years of random drug testing. Not even trace quantities were found in any drugs or alcohol. Wall Street Journal is not fit to line a parrot cage for bird shit, is his answer. Holmar's catalog says the following as well. Wow, so you're telling me that not only did this guy sell more EVs than any other automaker on Earth in 2023, launch 80% of Earth's total historic payload into space, but he did it while on LSD, ketamine, ecstasy. When you thought this guy couldn't get more impressive, there you go. And of course, Axios had to come and mop up this a bit, and they say Musk is shaping the future of transportation, communication, artificial intelligence, and space. An enormous, maybe even unprecedented concentration of power and influence, of course. The concentration of power and influence, we should all be worried. It's Elon. Of course it's Elon. That's the problem, right? Who isn't worried about the concentration of power and influence? But it's obviously Elon, guys. We all know that, right? There we know. So now, if you don't see that the world has changed considerably in the past 3 or 4 years, that's our theme today, right? How much the world has actually changed since the events of the January 6th in 2021. And even I would say before the pandemic, right? We've seen Adam Scrabble talk about this a lot. Adam Townsend, who you should all follow. He's a great follow. Adam Townsend asked everyone, and he's been reiterating it several times. So he did this in the first few days. He was one of the first people to call bullshit, even on the videos from the COVID thing. Remember when they had the guy collapsing? Stuff that I wouldn't have put that. If I was running this show, I wouldn't have put that in Moscow time at the time. Now, I knew something was up, right? But Adam was the first to say scam, scam, scam. And he asked everyone to keep a diary in 2020 because the world would change so much that it would be unrecognizable within a short amount of time, and that it was necessary basically to just get your bearings about you. His prediction was it was the greatest power roll-up ever. So more or less what Axios is worried about, this concentration of power in a few people's hands, Adam said was going to happen in 2020. And of course, he didn't say it was Elon Musk. He said it's going to be all the 3-letter agencies and all the same people that have been around for a while that aren't going to share power at all anymore, and it would just be them. So one of the neat things that has happened since then, now indeed, a lot of the stuff has gone the way Adam predicted, but I'd say another interesting thing has happened in that the contrast and change that's happened has actually repelled people. So you can't really stay, or a type of revulsion has been created among some people. So in the 2020 frame, there were sort of liberals, there were conservatives, and there were people who just didn't really want to get involved. Now, I'm not telling you that the answer to what we're looking at around us is the fight between liberals and conservatives. It's not that. It's between who's been brainwashed, who is easily brainwashed, who continues to follow the tune that someone else is playing, versus those that are doing their best to verify where information is coming, to vet it, to not react to things so easily, and to not be what we can call now prompt engineered, right? Now that we understand how AI works, now that we've seen how AI works in detail over the last 2 years, we can see that humans, just like the algorithms we use for AI, are just as easily prompt engineered. You can give it a direction and it will act. It's almost part of the operating system. There's almost no way to avoid it, right? So one of the things that has indeed happened is that the folks who maybe were just trying to get on with their life, like the Elon Musks or others, have been forced into this conflict. They basically have said, I can't keep building rockets if I don't solve this problem, because indeed it looks like the threat posed by the people that encouraged COVID and that encouraged lockdowns and that encouraged the vaccine and that encouraged everything we've seen since, it seems like those people are becoming less and less relevant and more dangerous, in the sense that they could actually cause the end of civilization. It's that bad, right? And so it's forced people like Elon Musk to be a little more proactive. So when Elon bought Twitter, X, it's more or less when we started doing this show daily, because the tide was starting to turn, and you now had a place where you could go and actually talk about this stuff openly and not get gaslit and psyoped every single day. So now it was still under the old regime when we started the show, and things have changed a lot. But let's just look at how much things have changed by having what I'll call sort of the more intelligent humans, the people who don't have a broken brain as much as others, get involved in the fight. Elon would be one of them. Now, just look at this type of a headline, right? You had this weekend, Mike Pence. You remember the vice president of the United States, Mike Pence? So Mike Pence tried to go on television, and he was out there trying to, because he was running for president, right? So when we were talking, he was answering questions about the January 6th this weekend, and he was there answering questions about the FBI involvement. And they asked him, right? They asked the former vice president, what do you think about what Trump says, that it was a setup and it was a con job and all that? And Mike Pence actually said the words out loud in 2024. The FBI told me what was true, and I believe them. He said that out loud. He just said straight up, I believe the FBI. Now, imagine being that thick in the skull. Or it's not that you're stupid, it's that you're actually actively involved in subterfuge and manipulating the American population, and in this sense, the global population. So we wouldn't have had that distance. We wouldn't have understood from people like Mike Benz. If X hadn't become such an open platform, we wouldn't have understood that. Mike Pence got immediately community noted, obviously. We predicted it, a year ago, that community notes, the minute it was rolled out, would change civilization. And it has. I think it has. Community notes being just an amazing way to break free of the troll reply system that had existed on Reddit and Twitter forever, which is just each side, retreating to their extremes and hitting like or upvote or whatever, and then you just get more polarization. The community notes algorithm, of course, seeks broad consensus from opposing sides of view in order to become legitimate. So those votes count more, basically, is the way the system is weighted. And we've gotten a lot of context out of that. So just from that alone, just from Elon, which we've said a million times here, directly competing with mainstream media, we've had a huge break in the way we're able to perceive these things, argue them, debate them. But it's not just that. It leads into another debate that I've been using for a long time as Bitcoiners, which is that the people on our team, like we're not in a situation where it's democracy and it's a numbers game, and if we have more people and they have less people, we're going to win, right? It's not exactly that. What's important in our case is that the opposition to the types of changes Bitcoiners are proposing for the world, like a separation of money and state, the types of people that are joining our side are much more impressive and much more useful and much more relevant than the NPCs that are opposing us. All these people who actually have what I call the January 6, like as in you're sick, right? You're sick from watching all of this stuff. You get actual brain damage from watching this type of news. If you watch Mike Pence on any one of these networks, you'll get brain damage, right? This is not an innocent person out there who's trying to give you some information. You know, he has this Christian image or whatever. No. He's out there infecting people with brain damage, actual brain damage. That's what you get from watching MSNBC or any of the mainstream media now. If you spend time with people who watch the mainstream media, you're actually not spending time with someone who has opinions. You're actually spending time with someone whose brain has been degraded, actually degraded, like the IQ lowered. It's not even they're wrong. That's not the correct frame to have. Oh, they're wrong about facts. It's much worse than that. Their brains have been polluted. They have poison in them. And because their brains have poison in them, they're useless. They've become actual AI that you can prompt engineer and they'll do what you ask. Now, if you read my book, The Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management, it gives you tips. I think you can recover the cognitive strength. I think you can get your horsepower back. I don't think it's gone forever, but it's not from arguing, right? You've got to fight magic with magic. You've got to fight prompt engineering with other prompts, and hopefully the subject gets off the mat and awakens. And I think they will. And it's not just because of Elon, right? Having Elon on the side that's fighting for this kind of stuff has been a help, but it looks like we're getting reinforcements. It looks like more people are coming. Now, while Elon has done an incredible job destroying mainstream media's reputation and helping bring it down, Bill Ackman, who was very anti-Trump for a long time, and he, to me anyway, was one of the only anti-Trump people I followed, was one of the only anti-Trump people I paid attention to because he's so smart and effective. And I've said for a long time, the minute he got activated against the universities, I said that he's one of the last people on earth I want as my enemy. He is literally one of the last people I want on earth as my enemy, because the guy doesn't stop. He just doesn't stop, right? So he went after Claudine Gay, right? The President Gay from Harvard, right? He went after her and finally got her to resign over everything, the plagiarism, right? But then they tried to hire her as a professor, and he was like, wait a minute, what do you mean professor? But then the best part happened. The best part happened. And I think it's going to keep getting sweeter and better. Business Insider attacked his own wife, who's a PhD holder. And I don't know much about his wife, right? She got a PhD, but she does like art with the design and engineer stuff. And she's had, you know, exhibitions of her work at MoMA in New York, probably because her husband is a big donor. But I doubt she's an idiot, right? So I doubt she's one of these people doing, what happens if birds only go to the washroom in the shadows, you know, these ridiculous studies you hear sometimes, right? What happens if bird nests? What happens to birds who copulate under full moons? You know, like these ridiculous things they always come up with. I don't think she's one of those types of academics, right? I think she's one that actually does real stuff, but I don't know. I don't know anything about her really. But what happened was Business Insider attacked her for being a plagiarist, the way Bill Ackman started attacking Claudine Gay and these other people. And so what did Bill do? Well, he started by saying, well, I'm going to check everyone at MIT now to see if there's other plagiarism. I'm going to check all professors. So he's already been saying for a few days, you know, I wonder if any professor is actually sleeping well. And here's what he comes out and says, right? He says, don't we have to do a deep dive into academic integrity at Harvard as well? What about Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Penn, Dartmouth? You get the point. While we are going to do a detailed review of plagiarism at MIT, we are not going to be the only ones who do so. Every college and university in the world is going to have to do the same for themselves. They will do so because they will need to validate all plagiarism accusations, or someone else will do it for them. Why? Well, every faculty member knows that once their work is targeted by AI, they will be outed. No body of written work in academia can survive the power of AI searching for missing quotation marks, failures to paraphrase appropriately, and or the failure to properly credit the work of others. But it wasn't just the MIT faculty that did not sleep last night. The Harvard faculty, its governing board members, and its administrative leadership did not sleep either. Why? Because we won't stop at MIT. Right. So now we see, and a lot of people bringing this up last night, like there was a Twitter thread that went a little viral where a guy was like, or a girl asked her husband to do some little task, like go get me a thing on the counter. And she was like, yeah, Bill Ackman is going to burn down all of academia because they attacked his wife. What are you doing? The least you could do is go get me this thing. So so it looks like he's going to do it. It looks like he's going to absolutely burn down all of it. All of it, right? All these experts who told you vaccines are safe, lockdowns are good for kids, right? All masks work, all these people, right? That had credentialism to help set sail for their own influence, their own prompt engineering. It's exactly what I wrote in Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management. Credentialism is a type of NPC. And now Bill Ackman is going to obliterate it. It's going to be gone. These degrees are not going to be worth anything anymore. So he goes further, right? You get Wow Emergent Perspective saying they went after this man's wife with accusations of plagiarism. He comes back and declares war on all of academia on the issue. As Bill says, a lot of people are not going to sleep well. We get more, right? There's a lot of people sort of picking up on this today. Ashley St. Clair says the same thing, right? Bill Ackman has the media putting their tail between their legs because this is now Business Insider. So what do we know about Business Insider, according to Mike Benz and others? That it's a cutout, right? It's another one of these Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird outfits, right? So this is the media being influenced and prompt engineered from deep state actors like the CIA, allowing for Business Insider to basically run operations that would do exactly what I said earlier, would lower the IQ of people and give them brain damage, right? Anyone who's out there selling you January 6th is causing you sickness, right? So him doing that and attacking Business Insider has them on their toes, on their heels, right? So Business Insider parent Axel Springer says it's going to take a couple of days to review the processes around Business Insider stories related to Neri Oxman, the academic, and Bill Ackman's wife, even though the facts of the reports have not been disputed. And then you get Cernovich saying Ackman probably operated under the usual assumption of people in his social class, right? And expected a massacre to at least not be defended. So going back to where he first got involved in all of this. Once he saw the reaction, including open Hamas support, he started pulling on threads. Like Alice, he ended up down a much deeper rabbit hole. And I think for Bill Ackman, that rabbit hole is going to lead all the way to Bitcoin. It's going to lead all the way there. There's no other way for him to go at this point. He has understood that, I think anyway, that the media has lied, that the media lie habitually. Universities are part of the information laundering apparatus, and he's taking it on. So you've got Elon Musk destroying mainstream media. You've got Bill Ackman destroying academia. What's left? There's not much left, right? The ability of the brainwashers after this becomes so degraded, having to fight people like Bill Ackman and Elon Musk, that its capacity, the fault tolerance of the system, is way surpassed, right? It can't survive these things. Cernovich goes on and he says, that's why I'm finding the purity tests by some a bit tiresome. Ackman isn't right-wing and never will be. Who cares? Legitimacy lost is a gain for the country. The more people witnessing this happen, the better. And I think that's where we're at, right? You get Peachy Keenan saying, thank you, Elon Musk, for giving us a platform where Bill Ackman and I can join forces to save Western civilization. I owe you one. And that's what's happened. That's what is so different this time around. And that's what makes, Adam Townsend told us, right? Go back to what I said at the beginning. He told us to keep a journal to show you how different things would be. And mostly that's negative, right? In a sense. Mostly that's to show you that you're losing the culture that existed before. But as Bitcoiners, we were ready to lose that culture, I think, right? And now that we see people, this tweet says it all. Elon Musk has created a platform, right? So that's the beginning of the fight that has allowed people like Bill Ackman to change their mind about some important things. Some important things. I think eventually Bill Ackman, like I mentioned 2 weeks ago about Jeff Bezos, will find their way to Bitcoin in 2024 for all of the important reasons, right? And when we say macroeconomics, right? Macroeconomics are really just politics. They're just politics. The word macroeconomics is stupid and invented, and we shouldn't even use it. I use it because it's still in the popular parlance. When we separate money and state, what you're going to find out is politics are macroeconomics. Microeconomics are just economics, right? Decisions that you make with your money. But macro, this policy thing and how countries and debt and and structure, it was always fake. It was always politics. It was never economics at all. It was political science could help you understand what was going on, if that's even really a thing. It's definitely a thing in America, but that was closer to understanding economics than learning about math. I say it all the time, right? When we're talking about economics, you might think we're talking about math because there's numbers. But if you read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, if you think about how the economy even works, it's a psychological engine. It perpetuates forward based on our optimism about the potential of commercial relationships. If we can't come to a commercial deal, you're not going to have any output. That's what makes communism fail in the end. No one's willing to work because no one is certain that the commercial relationship they've established will bring anything fruitful in the future. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people love doing business in America. In America, anyway, the psychological engine usually produces an economically advantageous result for the people involved in it. Usually. We've seen that buckle the past couple of years. We've seen it buckle since 2008, in fact, right? But that's really where that stuff comes from. So seeing these people now, it's not about conservative and liberal. It never really has been. It is about breaking people out of their fake prisons of two ideas and bringing them together on new common ground. And having someone like Bill Ackman on the team is going to help big time. And it's going to help Bitcoin because in the end, people like him have nowhere else to go once this work of destroying the universities and all that is over. Eventually, you're going to have to realize that the way we set the system up will just perpetuate this and bring the problem right back to us. So you're going to get more and more of this stuff. And go back again to what Adam Townsend said about how much things have changed. Now, one of the things that's amazing is that we're getting right back to where we were in some instances in 2019. And what I mean by that is the things that started to go wrong in 2019, the signs that the world was in for big change, the signs that I said that one of my last times on mainstream media was about the reverse repo, what they call the repo rumble. When I said in September 2019 on CNBC, I said to them, there's going to be a major printing event. Otherwise, the system breaks. That's what I said, right? I said, basically, the banking system is over. It can't survive this. This is as a Bitcoiner, I was saying that, right? Reverse repo was a form of quantitative easing. It's a way to subsidize commercial banks to keep them interested in doing their job because they weren't making money anymore. And what I said at the time was, if there's no major printing event, we're going to have hyper Bitcoinization right now. And I didn't know anything about COVID or whatever, right? But a lot of Bitcoiners knew something was coming. I remember being in Uruguay with Max Kaiser and Andreas Antonopoulos and many other Bitcoiners at the end of 2019. And we were all of the mind something was coming. Now, the virus already existed. People were talking about it. We were talking about it there. Most Bitcoiners are aware enough that this stuff is around. We didn't think it was a huge threat. We probably wouldn't have traveled all the way down to Uruguay if everyone was as afraid of the virus as they became not long after, Andreas in particular. But we were there together and having a good time. And go back. Adam Townsend has been bringing this up, right? What else was going on in the world in 2019, right? You had Hong Kong protests, right, where Pepe was a big star. Now, I don't know if any of you realize it. I've brought it up many times, but do you know what actually caused Hong Kong to go back to China in 2019? Does anyone know what it is? It was the stupid money laundering people that attack Bitcoin all the time for Hamas type stuff, right? It's them. It was FATF, right, which is the organizing body that makes FinCEN in America possible. That's the $10,000 you sign. Do you have $10,000 when you cross a border? That's their whole plan. That's the whole regime, right? That's it. That's what they got. And then the reporting of every transaction over $10,000. So that whole thing, and the reason why Hong Kong in 2019 went back to China was because the FATF, which was now under control of China, it's a rotating presidency, right? So FATF said that year that Hong Kong had to have extradition to China because of money laundering. It was only that. Carrie Lam, the CEO of Hong Kong, the governor of Hong Kong, cited the FATF report as the reason for which they needed extradition to mainland China. So the enemies already back then in China, the enemy was capital control. It was the legal rights of people in Hong Kong to bet against central banks. The legal rights of Chinese people to go to Hong Kong, go into the Bitcoin markets and short the yuan and do whatever else they needed. All of that stuff was threatened by what happened in 2019. In 2019, the reason you had the Hong Kong protests, the reason why Pepe became a symbol was because money laundering was a big part of the rationale. Security from money laundering was the big part of the rationale for what happened. And then remember, China is not necessarily the bad guy here. The bad people are the ones who never told you the truth about what was going on in Hong Kong, which was that it was all the money laundering regime. Apparently, Hong Kong is so invaluable to the world that we can just sacrifice it for some bureaucratic compliance effort. That's what happens. No one in mainstream media has ever framed it that way for you. That's what happened. That is exactly what happened. The enemies of Hong Kong are the same enemies of Bitcoin, and they were able to subdue Hong Kong without much trouble. Really, it was easy, right? And so, but that wasn't all that was going on. You had major protests in Germany, right? Germany was losing it, right? They had anti-immigrant stuff going on. They were getting pissed off with Angela Merkel and all these people, and they started protesting as well. And so that all went away, right? A lot of these protests that were ramping up in 2019, just like people understanding that the repo and the banking system were broken in America all before COVID, all of that went away after COVID, right? No more German protests, Hong Kong, everybody forgot about it. None of that stuff was relevant anymore, but it's all coming back. Now you get Germany having huge protests this weekend, right? The farmers are doing the same as the Canadian truckers, and they're doing the same as the Dutch farmers. And notice what they're doing, right? When people come around and say when people come around and say, "Oh, is America going to have a civil war?" No. Why would there ever be a civil war? Just look what they're doing in Germany. Do you know how many people it would take? America is divided geographically. The cities have all these blue state liberals because of the most corrupted politics in America by far. And so you get all these blue state liberals that are really just heavily urban states like New York, and that's what you get. But why would any people from the US countryside visit New York City for a civil war? That's not what's going to happen. It's going to be what you see in Germany. The farmers are just going to stop delivering food to the cities, and that'll be that. It'll be over in a couple of days, right? We'll see how long they make it in Germany, but it looks like Munich is going to be shut down, or already is, Berlin. So everything that was suppressed in 2019 is going to come back, and Hong Kong will too, right? Hong Kong is going to become another scene, another site of insurrection, of trouble. It's going to become a hot point in 2024. I don't have any proof of that. I don't have any example of why I think it's going to happen. I just think that the suppression of protests in Hong Kong in 2019 until now was so unnatural that the threads will come alive again, and you're going to see it, just like in Germany. Now, I'm not going off of any special information. other than I might go to Hong Kong in 2024. So, it's on my mind again. So we'll see. We'll see. But that's what you get, right? You get these kinds of things. Now, it's again, you get the farmers, you get Bill Ackman, right? Everything sort of changing from the formula that we had in 2019 and 2020. Elon Musk being so active, all these things are important, but it gets even better. It gets even better. That Golden Globes last night, right? We had the Golden Globes. I was mentioning that, the Dylan Mulvaney on the white carpet. But Oppenheimer was the big winner, right? Now, I don't care about the movie Oppenheimer. I can't sit through a 3-hour movie. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to see it. I was a Barbie person. I went and saw Barbie. I liked it. It was very good. But I couldn't sit through Oppenheimer 3 hours. It's not going to happen. But I just found out today who produced Oppenheimer. So it won last night, like best actor, best movie, blah, 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 blah. Right. Will we be able to watch via the live streams as we did before? I'm not sure what you mean, Dean. I'm not sure what you mean. Is this not a live stream? Are we not live streaming right now? Anyway, let me know what you mean in the comments, Dean. So the Oppenheimer movie, I didn't know this, but it was produced by James Woods. I didn't know that. Do you know James Woods? So I remember this remember Pop-Up Video on MTV when we were teenagers, if you were alive back then and you ever watched that. Pop-Up Videos was like a music video, but it had, someone just basically Googled a bunch of stuff in the video and it would pop up as like explanations where it was filmed, what was going on, interesting things about these people. And I remember this weird thing from Pop-Up Video. I forget what video it was, but they mentioned James Woods. Apparently he had the highest IQ of any actor at the time. His IQ was tested. I think he's like a Mensa guy or a Mensa guy. He's very smart, apparently, right? Really high IQ. Oh yeah, will we be able to watch now? I get it. Yeah. I hope so. As far as what's going on in Hong Kong, I hope so. I know a few Bitcoiners who were there on the ground doing the crazy stuff. Do you guys know the man who invented BIPs, Amir Taki? He was there. So there you go. We watched, that is what you mean, Dean. Okay, yeah. We watched Hong Kong protests, the Canadian truckers. I think so. I don't think the Great Wall, the firewall is around Hong Kong. So I think the internet still works in Hong Kong. So I imagine you'll be able to do that. And anyway, what we know is from Elon, right, that despite his drug abuse, despite his rampant drug abuse, he's actually going to also destroy the phone companies in America because he just put the first 600 satellite to phone satellites in the air, the SpaceX satellite to phone. It'll be on T-Mobile first. I'm a T-Mobile guy. So it should work for me this year, I hope. But if it doesn't, he'll just put more up, and then it will also allow him to destroy the monopoly the iPhone has, because if iPhone screws him, he can create his own AI phone, and that can connect directly to the internet. So from a satellite, which means no terrestrial choke point, no App Store choke point, because the App Store is the other choke point. So that's a 2024 prediction. I think Apple goes on the villain side, basically. They're already pretty much there. But we'll see where they actually end up. We'll see. But it could kill Apple. I mean, I will burn my Apple products if they do that stuff. I will absolutely. Yeah, the iPhone, the AI phone. Exactly. Yeah. That's what he should call it, the iPhone, the AI phone. I'll destroy all my Apple products if they pull this shit, right? I'll line them up on the farm and blow them away with my gun, and we'll do a live stream on an Android, and it'll be hilarious. But so that's in the mix. So apparently, and James Woods was one of the people kicked off of X, or previously Twitter, for complaining about elections. He's been a Trumper from the beginning, right? Isn't T-Mobile? Probably. I don't know the answer to that, Jeffy, but I imagine. All I know is T-Mobile signed the deal with SpaceX to do, or Starlink, to do the direct-to-phone tests. And I know that the new satellites that were put up were because they couldn't modify the previous ones to connect to the phones. I don't know technically what the problem was, but there was a issue. That's why there's a new satellite developed just for this. And so those are the ones that'll put up, and they are for T-Mobile phones. So as I understand, it was announced a year ago that T-Mobile and Starlink were going to do this. Then it didn't work out from testing, and now we have the deployment of 600 new satellites as a test. I believe the payload will be more and more. NASA finally launched a rocket this weekend. I don't know if you guys saw that, the Vulcan. It went up, and it will be a lunar lander rover on it. So that should be interesting. More news from the moon this year, which I'm looking forward to greatly. So here's James Woods, right? This is another person who was kicked off X, Twitter, not allowed on. He was spawned anew when Elon took over and released everyone out of the suspended account gulags. And what had he been up to while he was suspended? Well, he says it, right? He pitched Oppenheimer on August 3rd, 2020. He says he developed it for a few years. It seemed impossible that anyone would embrace a story about the creation of the atomic bomb, and yet here we are. Never give up on your dreams is what James Woods said, right? So he is the executive producer, and of course he's going to have, hopefully a career resurgence because of this. But there you go, right? So you get people like him coming to influence movies, right? Look at the void he's entering, and nature abhors a vacuum, and these vacuums create huge opportunities for people. Elon with the phones, with the space, with the Twitter, with the free speech. We're getting it with Bill Ackman and the universities, right? This is actually going to create an opportunity. And I've built the event business, right? The events that we do in this space, my role in them has always been because I thought universities were so pathetic and slow and couldn't keep up with the pace of innovation in this industry that they actually created a void that events could fill. Now, I got that idea because I saw how effective Bitcoin meetups were, and I was an early Bitcoin meetup guy, right? I went to the early Bitcoin meetups, and myself, and I've told this story 100 times on this show. Imagine I was trained as a lawyer. I'd lived all around the world. I worked for the Senate Banking Committee in Canada. I was an expert on banking law, right? I was financially illiterate. I didn't know what the hell was going on with finance in the world. I had zero. I mean, nothing. And I knew how Federal Reserve worked. I knew how fiat banking worked. I understood the ins and outs of foreign exchange markets. I knew all of that. I knew that Chicago was a commodities market. I had enough education, but didn't know what I was talking about. I knew how to read words, but I couldn't make sense of the story. I didn't know how to interpret it. And so Bitcoin meetups filled those blanks for me and made me actually financially literate. So I knew immediately that Bitcoin meetups were the best platform to learn financial literacy ever invented. And I think if you remember Christopher Giancarlo, the head of the CFTC, the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission in Chicago, where the regulator of the Chicago Exchange. So that fella, when he was the head of this, gave that famous, he was like the Bitcoin dad. That's what they called him, a crypto dad or something like that. Because he gave testimony just after the famous 2017 Thanksgiving, where everyone talked about Bitcoin because that was that cycle's sort of high point when it was really gathering rocket boosting power. And he said at his testimony, I've never seen a subject induce so much interest in markets, something we've been trying to teach kids forever. I've never seen it happen this naturally. So something is excellent and great about all this. And so we were building events off of this idea. And people would say, how big can events get? I would say all the time, well, how much can universities fail? That's how big events can get. And so it's been my mindset for programming events from the very beginning that I can produce a college-like experience in just a few days, and I can condense all of college and university into just a few days, save people thousands of dollars, and give them every experience they would have had over a year. I can give it to them in 3 or 4 days, and it would be just as useful and more, right? Because of how quickly you get it all. So you get this competition that events are against colleges and against that education system. And that's why I would never hire. I hired an Ivy League person once when I was at CoinDesk, and because I kind of had to, in the sense that everyone in the company that would sign off on hiring were Ivy League people. And so I, was like, I wanted to take this sort of autistic guy who had no education. In the end, I took the guy who went to Columbia and this and that, and I had to fire him. He was useless, like just useless, right? Like dumb. So nice kid, right? But didn't work out, right? So if I was to hire someone in a trading shop or whatever, and they came to me with a degree from Harvard, I'd say, well, what were you doing all these years? Why weren't you just slinging coins, learning about markets? Like, what were you doing at a college? Like, you didn't need a degree to get into Bitcoin. So you're out, right? It's a proof of not prioritizing and not understanding the world around you. So I would not hire any of those people anymore. So anyway, having this situation where we get people like Elon who are able to influence media, Bill Ackman who can influence universities, and now we also see this situation with the vacuum again. The failure and the opportunity for someone like James Woods to remake his career is great news, right? It's great news, and it's completely changing the thing. And that's why we're going almost back in the way that Adam Townsend warned us in 2020, how much the world had changed. That's why it's interesting that we're seeing these things in Germany. It looks like everything they threw, the kitchen sink and all that was thrown at the problem in 2020, the COVID, the fake January 6th, all of this stuff, it's already gone. It can't affect people anymore. It can't change their minds. So what's next? Who knows? It could be just as terrible as the stuff they threw our way in 2020, but we're much more clever about seeing it, spotting it. And the people who called it right are powered up, and the people who called it wrong are way powered down. Right? They literally need Joe Biden to go out there and persuade people, the leader of the free world, right? And it's not going to work. His speech this weekend was just mocked everywhere. Now they call him Dementia Hitler. Dementia Hitler is probably the most powerful and funny insult I've ever heard. It's the only way to use Hitler again with it having any effect, because it's been used too much. But Dementia Hitler, it's funny. That's what they call him now, Dementia Hitler. It's not going away. Dementia Hitler was trending this weekend. Dementia Hitler. It's the funniest insult I've ever heard in my life. Like, you're Hitler, but you have dementia. Like, did I take those rights away or not? Right? Which ones did I take away again? So, and now Trump has a new stand-up thing. I don't know if you've seen, I saw it this weekend. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen as well. Trump does a physical bit now on Biden trying to get off stage. It's better than any stand-up you'll ever see in your life, right? It's Trump going, and he does like the Biden dementia eyes, and like, which way do I go? Trump, I mean, obviously Biden can't debate him. Like, that can't happen, right? Not even close. It can't happen. He'd turn him into bone dust. It just can't. He can't go on stage with Trump. Trump has all of his faculties against Biden. It won't work. And if that's not bad enough, right? I continue to say that the best news that we've saw in 2023, and the thing that makes 2024 totally different, is that we are actually assassination proofed against Trump. Even if they do that, even if that's the crazy response that we get, right? Even if they do what they're trying to do to RFK, which I don't understand how it's not the worst story in the world still, right? That they don't give RFK his Secret Service protection. Like, can you think of a more disgusting thing in America than that? Can you think of it? And of course, it looks like that'll be the Trump play next. I think that'll happen, right? They're going to say Trump on our ballot doesn't, maybe the courts say, but we don't think it. So we're going to deny him Secret Service. So Trump is going to probably get a Secret Service reneged like Kennedy. Dean asks, Kennedy versus Trump? No, I don't think so. I think they would. I think it just won't happen. I mean, Kennedy will run against Trump as a third party person, right? I could still see a way for Kennedy to be part of a Trump administration. The VP thing will never work, but AG could, right? AG could work. Uh, Trump needs bipartisan support. He needs Democrats. He really does, right? It would be a good look, and it's good for him and great. And I think that could make sense because it's an executive job. Vice president's a stupid. It's for people like Mike Pence. It's for people who say, I've heard the repeated assurances from the FBI that they were not involved, and I take them at their word. That's a vice president talking. It's a Kamala Harris thing. So you don't put RFK as vice president. It's too low IQ. But attorney general is a real job. Now, when I say VP is too low IQ, someone like Vivek could do it because he could actually take the reins and run the everyday stuff. I continue to see Vivek a lot like Nixon was to Eisenhower after World War II, where Nixon effectively was the day-to-day president. He had a huge portfolio as vice president because of his, like Vivek, I think they have the most horsepower to go forward, just raw intelligence. So that to me, and what Vivek says, he's been destroying bureaucracies for years and all that stuff. So I think he's the right guy for that job. AG prosecuting deep state criminals is the right job for RFK. Like he could do that, right? Trump can't. Like he would get personal and if you had Trump on the guillotine, it probably wouldn't go well, right? I feel like it wouldn't go well. So I think Vivek gets the nod for VP, and they consolidate, the minority vote and all that way. Not that I think Vivek, it's not even for the minority board. Obviously, I think he's just legit the highest capacity character on those stages, and I think the world of Trump and RFK. Right? I'll never be a person who says Trump is stupid. I think Trump is a once in a lifetime talent, an artist beyond all recognition. He's on a Bob Dylan level artistry for me. That's always how I've described Trump. Right? He's an artist, and an artist is difficult. A true art, not aesthetic beauty and all that kind of art. Just the type of artist Trump is an offensive person. Artists are offensive. That's it. If you're into art, there's some offensiveness there, and so he's always been there. Right? Yeah. But Trump is special. But I still say I would rather Vivek as president. I really would. Now, the reality is Trump is sort of owed something cosmically because of the Steele job and the prosecutions and all that stuff. So I will celebrate like everyone if Trump wins. And I will cry if they kill him, right? Because I love the guy. I do. Like I would bawl my eyes out if they killed him, right? I would be so angry. And I see it as a real possibility for sure. But I still would rather someone else as president, just because we have a lot of broken brains out there, and Trump seems to make that worse. We can all admit that, right? Like he triggers people, right? As much as I love him, they were. But look, I mean, he got rolled too, I think, guys. You know what I mean? Like I don't think Trump knows everything. He's a good bullshit detector, but the type of bullshit they laid on us in 2020 was way worse than even Trump could probably comprehend, right? I don't think Trump knew to what extent he wasn't in charge of the country, or at least I don't think he was as aware of how out of power he was, like maybe Kennedy understood, according to RFK, right? Remember RFK has been saying for a long time now that his uncle acted as president for months after Bay of Pigs with the knowledge that someone inside the government wasn't listening to him, and he wasn't in control of them. So that's a big problem, right? And how in control of the country was Trump, and how aware of it was he? He couldn't even build the wall. I think he wanted to. I think he wanted to end illegal immigration. Imagine, not even Trump could end illegal immigration. Something was going on beyond his vision and beyond his sight that he didn't account for. And it was a strategic error on his part, right? That's why he should always be criticized for giving any credibility and trying to make an olive branch with the John McCain's and all these deep state people. He should have been prosecuting then, right? But he didn't. So that's what we get. But the good news is, and this is what we get from, so take for a second everything I've said about broken media and the void and the opportunity, right? We get it from the colleges, mainstream media, Disney, Hollywood, all of that heavily degraded, right? But what does Vivek do? He comes out with a pamphlet, old school media, right? And doesn't it look good? So pamphleteering was the way media was done before it went centralized with the radio. Did you know Lincoln, for example, owned hundreds of newspapers? Lincoln owned hundreds of newspapers, hundreds, right? And what were those newspapers? They were pamphlets, pamphleteering, this and that, right? So he's released his America First 2.0 pamphlet. And it's the stuff we've read many times. It's with his 10 truth statements, right? God is real. There are two genders. Human flourishing requires fossil fuels. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is no border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Capitalism lifts people up from poverty. There are 3 branches of the U.S. government, not 4. The U.S. Constitution is the strongest guarantor of freedoms in history. And so I agree with everything that Vivek has said in his pamphlet. And so he says here again, do you want reform or do you want revolution? I stand on the side of revolution. We're not just running from something, we're running to something. We can achieve national unity in this country by embracing the radicalism of the ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. Unbridled meritocracy, free speech, self-governance. Yes, these are extreme ideas. America First 2.0 is a shutdown of the administrative deep state, right? that would be enough, right? Declare independence from communist China, unleash the American economy, achieve greater than 5% GDP growth, revive American national identity. All of this is possible if you get rid of the regulators, if you literally allow people to just be entrepreneurs again. You know how hard it is to get anything going in America, this thing and that thing. It's not like it used to be, right? That's what people say. Some people say that, Glenn. But I don't see it. Now, I went far with him. So I reached out to him November 2022 to speak at Bitcoin 23 before he denounced as president. And so I got pretty deep before anyone knew who he was, and I was already talking to his team and all this. And I went so far because it's rare. It's rare. And I found, you know how I found him? He did a Tucker Carlson interview on CBDCs. And I was like, well, it's not possible for someone to come out of nowhere that I don't know, a person who's been booking shows and creating agendas and all that for shows in our industry for years. And there's no way one could get past my filter. I would have seen them all, right? And I didn't know who he was. So I said, sounds like he's being planted here for some reason. And this is, again, before he was president. But luckily, I was able to find people that I knew that he went to high school with. And I did enough research into his background to know that who you see before you is more or less who he was. There was not a lot of hidden hands at play. Now, indeed, he was in the pharmacy industry, which you've always got to be careful of. But he speaks so poorly of the industry and has learned so much that I don't know the details. So, Glenn, I'm not going to say that I have it 100% right, but I was confident when I put him on stage that he was on our team, and I remain that way. Now, you got to always say anything like that with a maybe I'm wrong, right? We got to say that it's a good reflex. It's good for you. That's what protects you from cognitive dissonance, is by reminding yourself to say you could be wrong, right? That's a very helpful exercise in life. It gives you the space you need to change your mind, to have sort of neuroplasticity, right? Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But so far, so good. And you know, what's the rug pull on his part, right? That he's president and then he gets money or something. I don't know. I'll have to see. What he says about Bitcoin is irreversible, right? If you're serious about fixing government and influence and all that, and you talk the way he does about backing the US dollar with Bitcoin, which becomes physics after no time, right? There is no more dollar after that. The dollar just becomes food stamps. It becomes political money. It becomes UBI. It becomes exactly what we all know where it's headed, right? We can see where it's headed. It becomes that. But the actual wealth becomes Bitcoin. And that's probably all we need. We're not going to save every sludge person. The UBI is coming. People who will trade all their privacy for a Pop-Tart, it's coming, right? There's nothing we can do about that. I used to think before COVID, save everyone, possible. I don't know anymore. And so you have to give yourself a bit of space for some things to go wrong. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, what do we got here? We were hit by military grade BS. You got it. Yeah. Glenn, president will soon be like Oscar winner. I hope so. Hey, my Fetterman prediction is coming real true, real quick, guys. Fetterman is actually like cresting the way I said he would. He's becoming a real presidential candidate. I like him. I like Fetterman, you know. I think he's hilarious. Even if he's doing the stupid Bitcoin thing with Elizabeth Warren, it's still worth the price of the popcorn, right? Trump and Bitcoin. Yeah, I think Trump's going to have to come around to Bitcoin. And I don't think he has a choice anymore. And the Oscar for best president goes. Well, you know, I used to say this too when Trump came along. I thought Obama was the first TV star president, of course. I mean, the whole thing was TV. And so I leaned right into that. I said, if, you know, because that's what people said in the early Trump days. He's a TV guy. He didn't go to Harvard. He's a TV guy. And I said, well, the last one was a TV guy. I want someone who's better at TV. The TV guy, it's still one of Trump's best insults was when he used to call, you know, candidate Trump as the best you'll ever see. Like before he was presidential candidate, when he was just trying to become the Republican candidate in 2015 and 2016, because he was hilarious. He didn't do any teleprompter stuff. It was all off the cuff. And that was his nickname for Obama, teleprompter guy. It's one of the best. It's one of his best. Stupid or liar will be the question of 2024 indeed. They all have skeletons. Vivek is entering and moving the Overton window, so bully for him. Yeah, save yourself first. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. UBI is the transition from fiat to hard money. Yeah, I think so. UBI is to deal with the sludge people. Look, guys. Are you interested in seeing a bunch of dead people? I'm not. Like, I'd rather they didn't kill themselves. Really, right? I rather most Canadians don't access Canadian healthcare to kill themselves. I would rather that. So if it's UBI versus them killing themselves, I'm going to take the UBI for them, and then maybe their descendants will get there, right? It's true. Obama was so bad, Jose, so bad, just the worst ever, just the worst. Normalized this fake. You know, all the people spreading hate when he's the biggest hate spreader there ever was, right? Reagan as an actor, he was. That's why it's not a bad thing, you know. It's not a bad thing. Trump's a TV guy, right? Vivek seems like a Bitcoin breakup master of ceremonies, raw material, most direct truthful experience in political. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'm a huge fan, you know. Trump eliminated 16 others on his way to winning the nomination, and those debates made for great, didn't they, Jason? Weren't they the best? I'll never, like, I can't really watch a full Trump speech anymore because right when he goes for the teleprompter, I'm done. Like, I can't, it was so good when he didn't do teleprompter that I'll never forget the contrast between freewheeling Trump and teleprompter Trump. Sometimes when I see a skit and he's doing the free roll stuff, then I'll watch it again. Like I watched the one in Iowa this weekend when he did his physical comedy on Biden. It's very, very good. And that wasn't teleprompter. So he still mixes in the no teleprompter with the teleprompter, but the teleprompter stuff sucks. It's not, I mean, it doesn't suck, but he's not good at it. Like, he's not good at it, right? Obama was better at reading a teleprompter than Trump, in a sense, because it was consistent. He didn't break character. Trump switches gears a bit with that, and it kind of is not great. So I don't, you know, when it was candidate Trump, if I saw that Trump was on TV, that's all I wanted to watch, right? Because you knew it was going to be crazy and funny, and it was the best, right? So there you go. Yeah, UBI and bug burgers for no coiners. Yeah, that's what it is, guys. But we love them. We love our no coiner friends, right? We can help them. We can't give up on them entirely. All right, Timo, let me just see what I got on Rumble and see what kind of things people are saying over there. That's not Rumble. 1 second. Let's see what the Rumblers are saying today. Oh, great. It didn't work. Oh, no, it did. It did work. All right. What do we got in the live chat? Good morning. Narwhal Tacos. Was Gray going to mention this? Vivek would be a better VP than president. He'd be a powerhouse while learning the ropes and paying his dues. Yeah, Narwhal, it is that to me, I look back at 1950 and I look at what Nixon did in 1950 and I say Vivek has that in front of him. He was the most active vice president we've ever had, and it gave him a lot of experience. And you know, Nixon is still one of my heroes. I knew Watergate was fake almost my whole life. So there you go. Read the Podesta papers. I'm not sure. Narwas, you mean the Hillary leaked emails with the weird references? Still researching. Are they BS? I've seen them. Like if you're talking about some of the Comet ping pong and all that, it looks pretty bad. I've seen the art. The art is atrocious. Like it's disgusting, right? Podesta is, to me, I think in the end, when we learn about exactly what's been going on, the blackmail industrial complex and all this, I think he's going to be space dropped. You know, he's a criminal. I can't see it any other way. I don't have any facts on him. Zero. I know nothing. Right. From what I see from the art and the stuff, major problem. But I could be wrong. Years ago on a whim, I did a brief dive into the whole the pizza and the other thing. Serious basis for the theory. Yeah. Podesta is 100%. Yeah, no question. Yeah, that's what I feel. That's what I feel. I mean, the art itself is disgusting. It's disgusting, right? That should in a Bitcoin standard, art like that gets you right. No trial, just someone comes up and ends you, and everyone's like, "Well, that makes sense," right? You wouldn't need to explain it to anyone. It's that bad. It's that bad. So, fabulous stream today, Nolan. I learned a lot. Thanks, Lance. Narwhal says again, when you learn about Podesta's art interests, it all comes together. Yeah, total creep. Yeah, it's unreal. Whitney Webb's "One Nation Under Blackmail" really ties almost every conspiracy together. Yeah. Yes, she was a reference with Marty Bent. Yeah, for sure. Great show. Thanks, Seaburger. All right, that's all I got for today, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow. Right? We got a busy day today. Go get it. We're gonna win. We're winning. I think 2024, as I promised you all, 2024 was a year of revelations, of learning, of just having your mind blown from all of this stuff. And if you continue to want to not see it and close your mind to it, I've already, just coming here to Barbados for the years that I have, meeting with friends and all that. Barbados is a kind of an innocent place, right? The good news is they're not on the fire hose of American brainwashing. So there isn't a lot of racial animosity and all of that stuff like America. So I've seen people who just didn't like Trump a couple years ago change their mind 4 years later and are open to different things now. So, but there are people who, because it's not everyday present, that's why I can't be in America right now. It stresses me out talking to general Americans who are on edge about this stuff all the time. I stay sort of where I am in Vermont. I don't have to deal with that. There's nobody around, right? And here you don't have to deal with it either. So that's good, but it's part of the collective unconscious. You still feel it. It's still around us. But what I've seen here, the people that were the most anti-Trump just a few years ago, now are not that. They don't love him, but their minds have settled on the fact that we live in a corrupt society and big change has to happen. So that's great news, right? Can't do better than that. All right. Be good, everyone. Have a great day. See you all tomorrow.